Howdy folks, Spencer here, and today the Master of Science Mods bundle has been announced, bringing with it the ability to obtain the Crossfield Refit, Krenim Annorax, and Voth Bastille on account-wide unlock. In this video, I'll be going over all the details and giving you my thoughts as to whether this bundle is worth going for. As always, chapters to each section are listed below. Starting with the basics, this bundle goes live on PC today, October 14th, and on console, October 28th. As with prior Muds bundles, there's a Pick 3 Choice Pack option and a Mega Pack. Both are at a 50% discount for the first week of this bundle's release, taking the Pick 3 Choice Pack down to 14,750 Zen, and the Mega Bundle down to 25,000 Zen. If all you care about here is the ships, then you can get the Pick 3 Choice Pack and select all 3 ships, or if you only care about 1 or 2 of the ships, you can pick those, and then there are some consumable options that you can go for as well. In this bundle, the consumable one-time claim options are a 10-pack of Ultimate Tech upgrades, a 9-pack of the T6X upgrade tokens, a 2-pack of Epic Phoenix tokens, a 50-pack of Master Keys, or a 300-pack of Lobi, and these should all be bound to you. Value-wise, the 2 Epic Phoenix tokens hold the most value, followed by the 50 Master Keys and the 10 Ultimate Tech upgrades. In addition, purchasing any version of this bundle should grant you the cross-faction flying unlock. I see it is listed as an option in the blog here, but historically, buying any of these bundles that have a faction lock shipped to them would just give you that unlock for free, so I'm assuming that's just an error with the blog. Now, shifting over to the ships, the Lockbox Crossfield Science Spearhead Refit is the star of the show. Since its release in 2021, it has remained popular thanks to its Starship trait universal designs, which I'll cover more in a moment. The ship itself is fine. It has a Commander Miracle Worker and a Lieutenant Command Specialization combo, which really isn't that great. Miracle Worker doesn't have much to offer for science builds aside from the Universal Console slot that it gets from being a commander, and the Lieutenant Command is too low of a rank to utilize any of the more desirable command abilities. In other words, you can basically ignore the specialization seats when building out the ship, which really isn't that great. You can still make it a very effective platform. I've seen people pull well over 1 million DPS with this ship, but it's not going to match the capabilities of newer science ships like the Ark Royal. And now we have the star of the show, the Universal Design Starship trait. Truthfully, a lot of people are going to be buying this bundle explicitly just to have this trait on account-wide unlock, and I'm going to be one of those people. While slotted, when you activate a Universal Console, you will get a buff for 20 seconds that grants plus 2% crit chance and 10% severity. This can stack up to 5 times, with each new stack or trigger refreshing the duration of all existing stacks. So if you're able to utilize enough Universal Consoles with clicky abilities that you can hit one at least every 20 seconds, then you can use this trait to maintain up to 10% crit chance and 50% crit severity, with potentially 100% uptime. Now, there are many different approaches to maintaining 5 stacks of this trait throughout the entire combat. If you're on a meta console clicky setup with Uncon and Voven, you'll easily be able to keep up to 5 stacks without thinking about it. At least 1 console click every 20 seconds is easy on those builds. Alternatively, some folks like to spam bar consoles that are charge-based to maintain their stacks, like the Immolating Phaser Lance or the Crystal Prism. The Crystal Prism is going to work best for that, as it gains a charge every 15 seconds, spam bar that, and you're set to maintain 100% uptime with the 5 stacks. Now, if you have the Ilios's Custom Power Matrix console, that is from the 2024 winter event, that has some toggles on it that you can just keep turning on and off to build up stacks of universal designs. So if you don't need the benefits of those toggles, or if there's just one of them you want to just keep turning on and off, then that is a viable route to go as well. Just keep in mind that this does get a bit wonky on a spam bar, so you'll probably need to manually keep hitting it. If you put it on a spam bar, what I've found is it'll just stop working at some point, so just keep that in mind. And before anyone asks, does Universal Designs actually impact your global crit chance, or is it just for weapons? So as I build up the stacks here, you're seeing that it is impacting my global crit values there. So you see that's an actual plus 10% crit chance, plus 50% severity. That is global, impacting everything on my build, not just the weapons. Next up is the promotional Krenim Annorax Science Dreadnought. This released back in 2015, a year prior to the temporal specialization being added to the game. This should be the temporal ship, but ironically it isn't due to timing. And sadly, no alternative temporal variant was ever released. Now, for the ship here, this has a hull modifier of 1.3, shield mod of 1.45, so rather tanky. but it does have rather poor mobility with just a turn rate of 6, impulse of 0.15, inertia of 40, so it is going to handle a bit worse than some of the other science ships out there. Power buff wise, plus 5 to weapons, plus 15 to aux. For the bridge officer layout, Lieutenant Commander TAC with Intel, Ensign Engineer, Commander Science, Lieutenant Commander Universal, and Lieutenant Universal with Intel. And while it doesn't have temporal, that Intel seating is why this ship has managed to retain some value over time. Intel is one of the best specialization seats that you can get, and with how the layout is on this ship, you can either make it go TAC heavy, turn that Lieutenant Commander Universal into another TAC, or you can lean into the science side of things, and then you've only got to deal with an Ensign Engineer, and the Lieutenant Commander TAC also happens to have Intel on it, so you can just use that for Intel abilities. Now, aside from that, it does have a 4-3 weapon setup that can load dual cannons. It has a secondary deflector slot. It does have a hangar bay, which is really important for the current meta especially. Console-wise, 4 TAC, 2 Ing, and 5 Psi. It does have a built-in lance also, the Chronoton Lance, and given this has lance in the name, the recent changes to the Trafalgar console should mean that this lance would interact and get cooldown reduction from that console. It's got subsystem targeting built in and sensor analysis. Now, heading over to the accessories, this ship does come with its own unique hangar pets. You can, of course, go in and slot Type 7s if you want, but these are the Krenim Heavy Raiders, and I have the elite version from my fleet starbase here. So these have 2 Coalition Disruptor beam arrays on them, a Coalition Disruptor dual beam bank, a Chronoton Torpedo, Surgical Strikes 2, Torpedo High Yield 3, Viral Matrix 2, and Aceton Beam 2. Someone out there has probably had a bit of success using these pets, but given they're limited to this ship, and just given the abilities that they have here, I'd rather just use a bay of Type 7s. I think that would result in higher performance. Now, for the Starship trait here, this is Time to Kill, and this is plus 10% all damage Cat 1 for 15 seconds when using a Science Bridge Officer ability. When this came out, there wasn't a ton of good traits, so this did actually see a bit of use, but in the current trait landscape, I just don't think that this is a trait that's worth going for. And for the console, this is the Temporal Distortion Field. Passive is 7.5% Cat 1 damage for exotic abilities, and the clicky is going to give you a 300% flight speed and turn rate buff. It's going to make you immune to energy damage for the duration of the console, and it's also going to reduce your outgoing energy damage by 40%. Upon expiration in a 4-kilometer radius to up to 10 targets, it will deal some anti-proton damage, stun them for a couple of seconds, and apply a power recharge speed debuff to them for 10 seconds. So overall, the accessories from the Annorax are not that great by modern standards, and even if the pet or console interest you, they are restricted to use exclusively on the Annorax. As for the trait, Time to Kill, 10 years ago 30% Cat 1 was appealing, but we've had many traits introduced since then that have greatly reduced its value. For instance, why use Time to Kill when you can use the legendary Bordeskiew's Thirst for Battle and get a 40% Cat 1 damage buff along with a massive speed and turn buff that you can maintain with 100% uptime. And then there's the World Razor's Cultural Conquest trait, which can currently provide up to 150% Cat 1 damage. So it's not terrible, it's just that there are much better and much stronger options that you can obtain nowadays. And the Annorax itself is a fine platform. The Arc Rail will of course perform a bit better, but if you want to fly the Annorax, you can still make it work. And it is a versatile platform. You can see here I was running a tank on it when I last used this around 2016. It's a ship that I had a ton of fun with. It's, again, not as great as the newer options we have for science ships, but it is still very capable. And the final ship is the Lobby Store's Voth Bastille Temporal Science Vessel. This has a 3-3 weapon setup, no hangar bay, pretty standard science ship loadout. Seating-wise, it's got an Ensign TAC, Lieutenant Commander Engineer, Commander Science with Temporal, Lieutenant Commander Universal, and a Lieutenant Universal with Command. Commander Temporal is really great for a science ship, but that Lieutenant Command doesn't really offer anything here. And that Force Lieutenant Commander Engineer is pretty rough for a science ship and is likely to negatively impact most science setups. If you're dead set on making this ship work, you can certainly do so. There's still enough room there to make a very capable science platform out of this ship, but, compared to the other options in the Zen store nowadays, I just think that this is a rather poor offering compared to something like the Arc Rail, the Terran Monitor, the Chekhov. There's a ton of better ships right in the Zen store that are going to allow you to do a bit more with the science playstyle than what this has to offer. And heading over to the accessories, first is the console enhanced aceton field generator. Now, thanks to the recent release of the Tier 6 Voth Stronghold, the restrictions on this console have been removed, so you can now use it on any ship you want. But diving into this console, the passives are plus 15 hull capacity and drain expertise, and the clicky is a toggle that turns on aceton mode for up to 20 seconds. This mode drains power from foes within 5 kilometers of you every second, with each foe taking up to 6 stacks of the power drain. As enemies shoot you with energy weapons, each incoming attack will build up 2.5 aceton charges with a max of 100. You then get a resistance buff scaling with the aceton charges up to plus 100 damage resistance rating at 100 aceton charges. And after 20 seconds or when toggled off, it will deal radiation damage that scales with the amount of aceton charges you have to enemies within 5 kilometers. Now, I don't recall this console being that great. As an enhanced console, it is just passive slapped onto an old T5 ship console, so the damage this does likely won't be that stellar, given that it was originally designed like 12 or 13 years ago. But now that it's unrestricted for use on any ship, someone's probably going to have some fun with it, and if you're interested in the Voth console set, and especially getting that unlocked account-wide so you can add a cloak or battle cloak to any ship that you want, then getting this on account-wide unlock would be another step towards making that a reality account-wide. And then we have the Starship trait Rapid Response Shielding. When you decloak or activate emergency power to shields for 30 seconds, you get plus 25% max shield capacity, and then plus 50 to Starship EPG and Drain Expertise. For someone that is really just desperate for the Drain X skill, the EPG skill, or the 25% max shield capacity buff there, this trait may be of interest to you, but for most situations, this trait's not going to have too much relevance. And to wrap things up, the main reason to get this bundle is for the Crossfield refit and its universal design Starship trait. Beyond that, I personally plan to grab the Annorax as it's a promo ship that would be expensive to obtain outside of this bundle. It does also have some nostalgic value to me, and it's still a decent platform, though newer size ships like the Ark Royal are simply better. And for the Voth ship, being a lobby ship that is pretty easy to obtain outside of this bundle, so unless you really want that account wide, I would skip it. So recommendation wise, while I like the Annorax, I don't think most of you are going to care about it, so I could see most people just going for the Crossfield refit along with some of the consumables. Now these consumable options down here, these can be selected multiple times, so you can choose the 50 master keys twice, you can select the 2-pack of epic tokens twice as well. Meaning that if you decide to go that route, you could go in and get the Crossfield refit plus 100 master keys. You could do the Crossfield refit plus 4 of the epic Phoenix tokens if you wanted. So you have a few different ways that you can go about this. Personally, I'm going to do the Crossfield refit, the Krenim Annorax, and then the 50 master keys. Again, I just don't care about that Voth ship. I do want to note though, for the consumable options here, the Lobi crystals are a bit of a trap because the 50 master keys would get you just about 300 Lobi, plus 50 lockboxes worth of items, so never pick the Lobi crystals. And the experimental ship upgrade tokens, with how cheap those are to obtain via Phoenix, as I just covered in some videos over the past couple of days, I wouldn't burn a pick on a 9-pack of those tokens. That's less than 20 bucks worth of value there, and you really want each of these picks from the Muds bundles to have a value of ideally around 50 bucks. And as for where this bundle will go on my tier list, due to how central Universal Designs is in the current meta, I'm going to put this at A tier. Getting that trait on account-wide unlock will make it easier for folks to really gear up their alt characters. Up to 10% crit chance and 50% severity is just such a massive boost. And as I showed, even without Uncon, you can just use a console like Crystal Prism or the Ilios to keep it up 100% of the time with 5 stacks. But that is it for today. Let me know what you guys think of this bundle down below, and as always, thank you to all channel members and viewers for the continued support. See you guys around.